Chapter 23. Ancient Accounts of Bodhisattva by Sagyarshja. Thereupon Bodhisattva Nakacharjasakumuth addressed the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat, why does Bodhisattva Bhayajarja wander in this Saha world? O Bhagavat, this Bodhisattva Bhayajarja has performed hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of nayutas of difficult and arduous practices. Splendid, O Bhagavat! I entreat you to explain it even a little, so that all the Devas, Nagas, Yakas, Gandharvas, Asuras, Garuas, Kinnaras, Maharagas, humans, and non-humans, and also the assemblies of the Bodhisattvas who have come from the other lands and these Sravakas, will rejoice on hearing it. Then the Buddha spoke to Bodhisattva Nakacharjasakumuth, saying, In the remote past, beyond kalpas as immeasurable as the sands of the Ganges river, there was a Buddha called Chandrasuryavamala Prabhasasri, an Arhat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well-departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of Devas and humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. With this Buddha were 80 kois of great Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, and an assembly of great Sravakas, as many as the sands of 72 Ganges rivers. The lifespan of this Buddha was 42,000 kalpas, and the lifespans of the Bodhisattvas were also equal to this. In his land there were no women, no hell-dwellers, no hungry ghosts, no animals, no asuras, and no calamities. The land was level like the palm of one's hand and was made of lapis lazuli. It was adorned with jeweled trees, and was covered with jeweled canopies with various hanging, flowered banners. This world was filled with jeweled vases and incense burners. There were platforms made of the 7 treasures. For each tree there was a platform, and each tree stood away from the platform a distance of no more than a bowshot. All the Bodhisattvas and Sravakas sat under these jeweled trees. On the top of every jeweled platform were hundreds of kois of Devas who played divine music and sang in praise and homage to the Buddha. Then the Buddha expounded the Lotus Sutra for Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana and numerous other Bodhisattvas and Sravakas. Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana devoted himself entirely to severe practices. Following the teachings of the Buddha Chandrasuryavamala Prabhasasri, he strove and wandered up and down in the single-minded search for enlightenment for a full 12,000 years. And he attained the samadhi, called Sarvarpasadarana. After having attained this samadhi, he rejoiced a great deal and thought thus, I have attained the samadhi called Sarvarpasadarana entirely because of the power I attained through hearing the Lotus Sutra. I will now pay homage to the Buddha Chandrasuryavamala Prabhasasri and the Lotus Sutra. Immediately after he had entered this samadhi, Mandarava and great Mandarava flowers and finely powdered solid and black sandalwood fell from the sky, filling the air like clouds and raining down upon the earth. It also rained the perfume of sandalwood from the inner seacoast of Mount Sumeru. With this quantity of perfume, 6 drams of which equal the worth of this Saha world, he paid homage to the Buddha. Having paid homage to the Buddha, he emerged from samadhi and thought this, I have paid homage to the Buddha using my transcendent power. This is, however, by no means equal to the tribute of offering my body. For a full 1,200 years, he inhaled the fragrance of sandalwood, olibanum, frankincense, clove, aloeswood, and glue trees, and drank the fragrant oil of Kampaka flowers. He then anointed his body with scented ointment. In the presence of the Buddha Kandar Suryavamala Prabhasasri, he covered his body with a divine jeweled garment and with the fragrant oil. Through his transcendent power and vows he set his body alight, which illuminated worlds equal in number to the sands of 80 kois of Ganges rivers. At the same time all the Buddhas in these worlds praised him, saying, "Splendid, splendid, O son of a virtuous family." This is the true perseverance. This is called the true Dharma offering to the Tathagata. It stands no comparison, even if one were to pay tribute with flowers, perfumes, necklaces, burning incense, scented powders, ointments, divine silk banners, canopies, perfumes of sandalwood from the inner seacoast of Mount Sumeru, and various other things like this. It stands no comparison, even if one were to offer one's kingdom or wife and children. O son of a virtuous family, this is the supreme offering. This is the highest and best of all offerings, because you offer the Dharma to the Tathagatas. Having spoken these words, all became silent. His body was alight for 1,200 years. After this period passed, his body burned out. Because he had paid tribute to the Dharma like this, Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana was reborn after his death in the land of the Buddha Kandar Suryavamala Prabhasasri. He was born spontaneously, sitting cross-legged in the house of King Vimaladatta. Then he immediately spoke these verses for the sake of his father, saying, "O great king, you should now know that I, in an instant, attained the samadhi called Sarvarpasadarana in the place where I wandered, and, practicing with enthusiasm and perseverance, I set aside this, my beloved body. I have paid homage to the Bhagavath in order to attain the utmost wisdom." After having spoken these verses, he addressed his father, saying, "The Buddha Kandar Suryavamala Prabhasasri is now in this world. Having previously paid homage to the Buddha, I attained the draw of understanding the speech of all sentient beings, and heard 800,000 of myriads of kois of nayutas of verses and tens of billions of verses, hundreds of billions of verses and thousands of billions of verses of the Lotus Sutra. O great king, I will now once again pay homage to this Buddha." Having spoken this, he sat on the 7-jeweled platform and ascended into the air as high as 7 tala trees. Having come before the Buddha, he bowed until his forehead touched the Buddha's feet. He praised the Buddha in verse with his 10 fingers pressed together, saying, "Your countenance is rare and wonderful. Your brilliance illuminates the 10 directions. Once, long ago, I paid you homage. I now come to behold you again." Thereupon Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana, having spoken this verse, addressed the Buddha, saying, "O Bhagavath, the Bhagavath is yet in this world." Then the Buddha Kandar Suryavamala Prabhasasri said to Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana, "O son of a virtuous family, the time of my parinirva has come. The time of extinction has come. I ask you now to prepare my bed. I will enter parinirva tonight." The Buddha said again to Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana, "O son of a virtuous family, I entrust you with the Buddha Dharma, and all the Bodhisattvas and great Sarvakas, as well as the Dharma for highest, complete enlightenment. I will also entrust you with the 7-jeweled world, all the jeweled trees, jeweled platforms, and the devas who are my servants in the great manifold cosmos. After my parinirva, I will also entrust you with all my relics. You should distribute them far and wide and pay them homage. You should also erect a great many thousands of stupas. Having addressed Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana in this way, the Buddha Kandarsuryavamala Prabhasisri entered parinirva in the last watch of that night. Thereupon, having seen the Buddha's parinirva, Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana was grieved and saddened, and longed and yearned for the Buddha. Having prepared a pyre with sandalwood from the inner seacoast of Mount Sumeru, he cremated the Buddha's body in homage. After the fire had gone out, he collected all the relics. He had 84,000 jeweled urns made and erected 84,000 stupas as high as 3 worlds. They were adorned with poles from which hung all kinds of banners and canopies and various kinds of jeweled bells. Then Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana thought this, although I have paid tribute in this way, I am not yet satisfied. I will now further pay homage to the relics. Then he spoke to all the great assemblies of bodhisattvas, great sarvakas, devas, nagas, and yakas, saying, You should pay full attention. I will now pay homage to the relics of the Buddha Kandarsuryavamala Prabhasisri. Having said these words, he made an offering before the 84,000 stupas by burning his arms adorned with hundreds of merits for 72,000 years. He thus made innumerable sarvakas and immeasurable, incalculable people set forth toward highest, complete enlightenment. All of them were made to dwell in the samadhi, called Sarvarpasadarana. At that time all the bodhisattvas, devas, humans, and asuras saw that his arms were missing and became grieved and distressed. They said, This Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana is our teacher. He has led and inspired us. He has now burned his arms, and his body is deformed. Then Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana made a vow and said to the great assembly, I have abandoned both my arms, and I shall definitely attain the golden body of the Buddha. If this is true and not false, then may both arms be restored as before. Because this Bodhisattva was endowed with profound merit and wisdom, after he had made this vow his arms recovered spontaneously. At that very time, the great manifold cosmos quaked in 6 ways. It rained jeweled flowers from the heavens, and all the devas and humans experienced an unprecedented marvel. The Buddha addressed Bodhisattva Nakacharya Sakumeth, saying, What do you think about this? Is Bodhisattva Sarvarpasadarana someone unknown to you? He is none other than this Bodhisattva Bhayajarja. He undertook the practice of giving by abandoning his body immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of nayutas of times in this way. O Nakacharya Sakumeth! If there is anyone who sets forth and wishes to attain highest, complete enlightenment, he should pay homage to the stupas of the Buddha by burning either a finger or a toe. He is superior to those who pay homage by giving their countries and cities, their wives and children, or the mountains, forests, rivers, ponds, and many other rare treasures. If there is anyone who pays homage to all the Buddhas, great bodhisattvas, pratyabuddhas, and arhats by filling the great manifold cosmos with the 7 precious treasures, the merit of this person will not be equal to the surpassing merit of one who receives and holds to even a single verse consisting of 4 lines of the Lotus Sutra. Onakatarja Sakumeth. Just as the ocean is the greatest of streams and rivers and of all waters, this Lotus Sutra is the most profound of the sutras taught by the Tathagatas. Just as Mount Sumeru is the greatest of mountains, greater than Earth Mountain, Black Mountain, Mount Kakrava, Mount Makakrava, and the 10-jeweled mountains, this Lotus Sutra is the greatest of the sutras. Just as the moon is the greatest among all the stars, this Lotus Sutra is the most illuminating of the thousands of kois of sutras. Just as the sun destroys darkness, in the same way this sutra destroys the darkness of erring thought. Just as the noble emperor is the best of all the kings, this sutra is the noblest of all the sutras. Just as Sakra is the king of the 33 devas, this sutra is the king of sutras. Just as great Brahma is the father of all the sentient beings, in the same way this sutra is the father of all the wise, the noble, those who have more to learn and those who do not, and those in whom the thought of enlightenment has awakened. Just as those who have entered the stream of the teaching, Shrotopanas, those who are to return to this world once again, Sakchmans, those who are never to return, Anagamans, Arhats, and Pratyabuddhitas are the best of all the common people. In the same way, this is the best of all the sutras taught by all the Tathagatas, Bodhisattvas, or Sarvakas. Those who hold to this sutra are the best of all sentient beings. The Bodhisattvas are the best of all Sarvakas and Pratyabuddhitas. In the same way, this sutra is the best of all sutras. Just as the Buddha is the king of the Dharma, this sutra is the king of sutras. Onakatarja Sakumeth. This sutra saves all sentient beings. This sutra makes all sentient beings free from suffering. This sutra greatly benefits all sentient beings and brings their aspirations to fulfillment, just as a clear, cool pond satisfies the thirsty, as a fire satisfies those suffering from cold, as clothes for the naked, as a caravan leader for merchants, as a mother for her children, as a boat for the traveler, as a physician for the sick, as a lamp for the gloom, as a treasure for the poor, as a king for the people, as the sea for traders, and a torch for those in darkness. In the same way, this Lotus Sutra frees sentient beings from every suffering, all the pains and bonds of illness and of birth and death. If there is anyone who hears this Lotus Sutra, copies it, or moves others to copy it, their merit will be limitless even if it is measured through the Buddha's wisdom. If there is anyone who copies it and pays it tribute with flowers, perfumes, necklaces, burning incense, scented powders, fragrant ointments, banners, canopies, clothes, various kinds of ghee lamps, oil lamps, fragrant oil lamps, lamps of oil made from Kampaka, Sumanas, Pala, Vrika, and Navamalika trees, that person's merit will also be immeasurable. Onakatarja Sakumeth. If there is anyone who hears this chapter ancient accounts of Bodhisattva Bhayajarja, they will attain immeasurable and limitless merit. If there is any woman who hears and holds to this chapter ancient accounts of Bodhisattva Bhayajarja, she will never be reborn with a female body. If there is any woman 500 years after the parinirva of the Tathagata who hears this sutra and practices according to the teaching, she will immediately reach the dwelling of the Buddha Amitayus in the Sukhavati world, surrounded by great bodhisattvas, and will be born on a jeweled seat in a lotus flower. Never again troubled by the 3 poisons of greed, anger, or ignorance, by arrogance or jealousy, he will attain the Bodhisattva's transcendent powers and the acceptance of the non-origination of all dharmas. After attaining this acceptance, his faculty of sight will be pure, and with this pure eye faculty, he will see all the Buddha Tathagatas, equal in number to the sands of 72 million kois of Nayutas of Ganges rivers. At that time all the Buddhas will praise him from afar, saying, "Splendid! Splendid! Son of a virtuous family! You have preserved, recited, and contemplated this sutra from the teachings of the Buddha Sakyamuni and taught it to others. The merit you have obtained is immeasurable and limitless. Even fire cannot burn it. Even water cannot wash it away. Even thousands of Buddhas cannot give a complete description of your merit. You have already destroyed the Maras. You have already conquered the armies of birth and death. You have defeated all enemies. O son of a virtuous family! Hundreds of thousands of Buddhas together protect you with their transcendent powers. There is no one equal to you among the devas and humans of the entire world. With the exception of the Tathagata, the wisdom and meditation of all Sravakas, Pratyabhutas, and Bodhisattvas can never equal yours. O Nakacharya Sakumeth! Such is the power of the merit and wisdom that this Bodhisattva has perfected. If there is anyone who hears this chapter, ancient accounts of Bodhisattva Bhayajarja, rejoices in it, and praises it well, in his present life he will always exhale the fragrance of blue lotus flowers from his mouth, and will always emit the fragrance of the sandalwood on Mount Oxhead from his pores. The benefits of the qualities he has obtained are just as mentioned above. For this reason, O Nakacharya Sakumeth, I will entrust you with this chapter, Ancient Accounts of Bodhisattva Bhayajarja. During the period of 500 years after my parinirva, you must spread it far and wide in Jambudvipa, and not allow it to be destroyed. You must not give Mara and his men, or the Devas, Nagas, Yakas, and Kumbha demons any chance of destroying it. O Nakacharya Sakumeth! You should protect this sutra with your transcendent power. Why is this? Because this sutra is good medicine for the ills of the people of Jambudvipa. If there is any sick person who hears this sutra, his illness will disappear, and he will neither die nor grow old. O Nakacharya Sakumeth! If you see anyone who holds to this sutra, you should scatter blue lotus flowers full of scented powder on him. After scattering them, you should think like this: this man will before long destroy the army of Mara, sitting on the grass-covered terrace of enlightenment. He will blow the conch of the Dharma, beat the drum of the great Dharma, and ferry all sentient beings across the ocean of old age, illness, and death. Therefore, if those seeking the Buddha path see those who hold to this sutra, the thought of respect should awaken in them. When this chapter, Ancient Accounts of Bodhisattva Bhayajarja, was being taught, 84,000 bodhisattvas attained the draw of understanding the speech of all sentient beings. The Tathagata Prabhudaratna in the jeweled stupa praised Bodhisattva Nakacharya Sakumeth, saying, "Splendid! Splendid! O Nakacharya Sakumeth! You have attained marvelous merit, for you have questioned the Buddha Sakyamuni about these things, and benefited all of the immeasurable numbers of sentient beings.